A tale existed in a small remote village that was tucked away in the middle of the Canadian countryside, sending shivers down the spines of everyone who called this area home. The Wendigo, a vengeful creature from traditional Native American folklore, was claimed to prowl the deep forest that encircled the settlement, according to the narrative. The majority disregarded it as mere superstition, but some knew otherwise since they had personally saw the monster. Part 1. The Wendigo's Curse. Everyone in the little community of Eldertown knew one other. People lived a modest life and were happy. However, there was darkness lurking underneath the surface, as there always is. Eldertown was established on ground that was formerly holy to the Algonquian people, and the spirits that lived there were not happy about the settlers' incursion. One frigid October night, a group of adolescents made the decision to put the myth to the test. In Wendigo Woods, they huddled around a campfire to tell stories about the monster and to dare one another to go further into the woods. Sarah, a young woman with a taste for adventure, was one of them. The gang walked farther into the woods as the darkness deepened, aided only by the dim illumination of their flashlights. The wind rustled the leaves, and an owl's distant hoot added to the ominous atmosphere. Although Sarah's sense of dread was rising, she dared not express her anxiety to her pals. They searched for hours before finding a dilapidated home deep into the forest. Its entrance hung ajar and its windows were broken. They were hesitant to approach the cabin, but their curiosity won out and they did so one by one. They discovered artifacts from a bygone age inside, including a worn-out notebook, an old fireplace, and a rickety wooden table. A curse attributed to the Algonquians was mentioned in the diary. It described a being called a Wendigo that yearned for human flesh and was sworn to guard the holy site from invaders. The story was mocked by Sarah, who dismissed it as a brilliant fiction. The party kept exploring the lodge, but then they started to hear odd, guttural voices resonating through the night. They started to feel panicky and thought it was best to leave. It was too late, though. A bone-chilling wind blew through the woods as soon as they exited the cottage, blowing out their flashlights. A dark force appeared to animate the woodland. They sensed eyes observing them in the darkness. The gang members disappeared one by one into the darkness, their frightened shouts fading away. The Wendigo's menacing voice could be heard by Sarah, who was shaking and by herself. It whispered, "Your friends are gone, and now you are mine." With her pulse racing from panic, Sarah sprinted into the woods in the dark. The Wendigo chased her furiously, always vanishing from view as its figure moved through the foliage. She could feel its chilling touch on her skin and hear its scratchy breath on her neck. Days passed into hours and Sarah's body became weaker from hunger and weariness. She, however, resisted caving into the Wendigo's spell. She was committed to surviving, finding a means to reverse the curse and escaping the creature's ferocious pursuit. As the days grew into weeks, Sarah discovered an old cemetery where the Algonquian tribes had interred their dead. She started to dig with shaking hands, searching for a means to placate the angered spirits and break the bond that tied her to the Wendigo. She had no idea that the Wendigo's actual motivations were far more evil than she could have ever imagined. Therefore, she had no idea that the worst was still to come. Part 2. The Wendigo's Hunger. Days and nights spent by Sarah in the eerie Wendigo woods had become a hazy loop of painful terror and despair. She was on the verge of going insane from the creature's unrelenting pursuit and disturbing murmurs resonating through the trees. Sarah discovered an old amulet that was deeply etched with mysterious markings as she went farther into the burial site. She clung to the amulet with quivering hands, believing that it could provide the solution to removing the Wendigo's curse. The Wendigo's presence expanded that evening as she crouched within a temporary shelter. It encircled her tent as its eyes twinkled with ominous fire. In the hopes that it might shield her from the creature's nefarious influence, Sarah clutched the amulet close to her bosom. As a gentle, ethereal light began to emanate from the amulet, Sarah felt a surge of strength rush through her body. She finally realized that the amulet served as a channel for communicating with the Flora's spirits. She may confront the Wendigo and break the curse with their assistance. Sarah mustered the strength to enter the woodland farther, using the amulet's glow as a beacon. Her willpower was being tested as the Wendigo's words got louder and more insulting. Sarah persisted nonetheless, determined to confront her oppressor. She came face to face with the beast as she entered the heart of Wendigo Woods. It was a hideous, emaciated figure with sharp ice-like fangs and vacant eye sockets. It howled in a terrifying, unearthly manner that reverberated through the woods. Sarah invoked the help of the fairies of the land while holding the amulet. They replied, casting a magnificent, dazzling light across the woodland with their presence. The Wendigo shouted in pain as the power of the spirit swallowed it. Its shape writhed and twisted. The Wendigo vanished in a blinding flash, its spell shattered. The air was palpably calm as the jungle went completely silent. Although Sarah had survived, she was aware that Wendigo Woods would always be a part of her. Years later, Sarah made her way back to Eldertown, having undergone a profound transformation. She told the town's residents her terrifying story and warned them of the curse that persisted in the nearby forests. Some others agreed with her, while others thought it was a complete fiction. But the reality will soon become clear to anyone who walked inside Wendigo Woods. Though temporarily exiled, the Wendigo would never fully vanish. Those who ventured to enter the cursed woods would always be haunted by its hunger and malice. And so, the Wendigo tale persisted, serving as a terrible reminder of the evil that lurks in the wilderness's depths, ready to trap the careless and the curious.